Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. When life gets salty, as in Tuesday night when the Heat should have pounded the Atlanta Hawks, but never left their homes in South Florida and were dominated, make yourself a margarita. When water damage gets you mold, call Water Cleanup of Florida. As we've seen the last few days, water happens a lot here in South Florida. Even if the last few months we haven't had rains, they're always around the corner. When water damage gets you, mold, and more, call Water Cleanup of Florida. When disaster strikes in your home or business, you need specialized, fast, and reliable services. Water Cleanup of Florida understands how unexpected property damage can overtake your life or business. Don't stress and allow our 60-plus years of combined experience handle your restoration project from start to finish. Michael, Robert, George, and the rest of the water cleanup team are prepared to handle disasters of all sizes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Water Cleanup of Florida is also fully licensed, insured, and has general contractors that provide the one-stop shopping that busy home and business owners require. Their objective is to make the cleanup and insurance claim process painless and hassle-free. And as someone, we didn't go through insurance per se, but we had water damage. They made sure we knew exactly what was wrong. They fixed it. And because they're licensed insured contractors, they made it look brand new. It looked literally, we knew where it was, and it was still hard to find where the issues were once they were done. They do service the Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach County areas. Call Michael anytime on his personal cell at 954-579-0356. Again, 954-579-0356. Or visit the website at wcufl.com. Check him out on the socials at Water Cleanup FL, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on Google. Yes, not just me. You can check out on Google. Over 85-star reviews. Water Cleanup of Florida. Right now we're dealing with lots of schmutz in the Southern Florida area. If you find any schmutz, have any issues, fire, water, damage with your home or business, they have the guts, Water Cleanup of Florida. The Miami Heat could have used some Water Cleanup of Florida guts Tuesday night. It was a disaster. The whole world was picking the Heat as it seemed like they sort of found their way. Jimmy Butler had been getting praised as, to me, he is a top 3 to 5 playoff caliber player. The Hawks were in disarray. Reports had come out that they're willing to trade Trae Young. Reports had come out that they're following Trae Young everywhere because they don't trust him. The Heat were at home, had everything to play for, and they were out-rebounded by more than double. Out-rebounded on the offensive glass, 22-6 or 26-6, somewhere around there. It was a total disaster. It was horrendous. The Heat fell to the Hawks. Now they have to take on the Chicago Bulls this Friday night. We talked about the Miami Heat's disaster and Miami Heat's outlook the rest of this postseason, plus the rest of the NBA postseason with AP NBA writer, reporter, analyst Brian Mahoney right here on the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
The Defo Show here on the South Florida Live. Great to have you with us. Also, 5 Reasons Sports Network. No doubt. I mean, this would be a representative segment to pop on Ethan Skolnick's fine site there, which is growing like a weed. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and we welcome to the show from the Associated Press, and always a great conversation whenever we're talking baskets. Oh, okay. You don't have the guy yet.
No, it was 8:30. I told you 8:30 originally, and then I meant to put in 8:30, and then I had to do something, so I put in 8:20 by accident. It's 8:30.
Should I just, save that introduction
yes,
and,
yes.
do an abrupt edit there? Come in.
There.
Anyway, Brian Mahoney is going to join us here in a few minutes, and we'll talk about the postseason. And as we said, I go Al Bernstein on this again. Many intriguing matchups. Cavaliers and the Knicks will be spotlighted naturally because already getting a heavy dose of that in my New York Post. And the Nets are involved against the Philadelphia 76ers. And of the big 3 teams in the East, which seem to be on relatively equal footing all year, although Milwaukee emerged as the superior team, and I think rightfully so. Boston, what was excellent throughout, especially the early portion of the season, had a couple of periods of time where they floundered a little bit and made you think that they were more suspect than their record would indicate. But still, I mean, an outstanding year all the way around, and they finished second. And Philadelphia winds up third. Now, it would make sense with that pecking order that the most vulnerable team would be the third-place team, the Philadelphia 76ers. But because of their, Joel Embiid has had a lot of misfortune, including getting injured in the postseason. And that was with the great Doc Rivers. Remember, Doc Rivers left Embiid in a game that they were up by 50
Yes.
with like 30 seconds to go, and that's when he rolled his ankle. And you're thinking, if ever there was a time where you blame a coach for just outright and utter stupidity,
Yep.
and could blame a coach for a guy getting hurt, that was the time, was it not?
Yes.
Because I normally don't buy it. You have coaches, guys get hurt. It happens. I mean, Kevin Durant, right? He's in warm-ups, man, and some schlep won't go out there and roll out there with a towel. He sees a bunch of schwitz on the floor. And, here's Kevin Durant, this new acquisition at great expense that's going to put the Phoenix Suns over the top. And next thing you know, he's in a slip and fall. He's calling Amanda Demanda and saying, can you believe these clowns left the court that went on warm-ups? Unbelievable. And what was that worth overall? Well, it didn't cost Durant any money, but it probably cost Phoenix a few games. And they seem to be invincible with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker in the lineup together. Sorry, with apologies to Mike Lubie and, the fact that he was obsessed with the idea that, you know what, we love Justice Winslow. I should let you off the hook on that. No, I mean, a lot of people would have made that same mistake. It's unfortunate, but it does get back. And, Grant Long was with us on this 1,000%. That how is it possible for scouts in every sport, especially South Florida scouts, to be so, to put it bluntly, so fucking blind?
Yeah. Yep.
Baseball, how do you miss on everybody? Every prospect. You're drafting, in the top 10 year after year after year after year, and you can't find anybody who can play this game? It's insane, Lubie. What are these people looking at? And we see it all the time, right? There was a guy with a mock draft today that had, who is this guy? Is it Levis? What's the guy's name?
Yeah,
the quarterback
kid who sucks.
What is it? Is it Will Levis?
Will Levis.
Yeah.
He's horrendous.
Where did he come from? BYU or something?
He's Kentucky. You just said Kentucky. He played at Kentucky.
All right.
He's a big, strong kid who's horrendous.
I've seen clips of him.
He's horrendous.
Yeah, what do you see in there?
Big, strong kid. Josh, remember, they finally got away from that prototype bullshit. They just wanted guys that were good and had ability. And then Josh Allen, who was out of Wyoming. Big, strong kid who can run, but is horrendously inaccurate. Was that for 2 years in the NFL, and then they surrounded him with talent, and he got better. And he's actually still not as good as they want him to be, but he's good. Josh Allen's a legit quarterback. He's good. I don't think he's great, but he's good. And because he was able to sort of get better at accuracy, like, oh, good, we can go back to overdrafting athletic freaks who suck. And that's what they're doing in this draft.
Tim Couch, man. Unbelievable. I don't know. Did he distinguish himself that much? This guy's mock draft that I saw on CBS Sportsline today had Will Levis being taken first.
Yeah, stupid.
In the draft.
Levis
That's crazy.
And Richardson, dumb. The ascent they've made makes no sense to me.
I mean, maybe he turns out to be the best guy, though. I mean, I wouldn't be adept enough at knowing his skills or lack thereof. It seems to me that came out of nowhere. This Richardson thing with Florida, at least you could make a case that you do have a freak athlete.
Yes, he's a freak athlete.
And, especially a guy like John. I saw another mock draft where Las Vegas somehow, I guess at the third pick, Las Vegas trades in there with Josh McDaniels and, ends up taking Richardson from Florida.
Yeah, that's worked for him well, trading up to take Florida quarterbacks.
Right, to take a Gator quarterback that was a sensation. I mean, he wasn't even really a sensational college player, although you would have to say, I mean, a very tempting guy to try and project as being better than he really is. I mean, the fact that he, it may be Vinny Testaverde colorblind, but when it comes to throwing a ball to the other team, and those Gator uniforms are easy to pick out, are they not? I mean, they are gaudy loud, whether they're wearing the orange or the blue, are they not? How could you miss your Gator receivers
when you're
being out there in pass patterns and routinely throw the ball to the other team?
Yes, he's bad. He threw for 54%. 60% is average. He threw for 54%. When they have three guys on their line that are going to get drafted in the first 2 rounds. They have 2 of the best offensive linemen in the draft. So you can't tell me he was getting hit. He wasn't getting hit. He wasn't getting pressured. He's just horrendous. He's a physical freak. Okay, so take that guy.
Well, I mean, he's raw, you would say.
Yeah, so you don't take that guy top 5. Top 5 has to start
But
now.
a running, I mean, just demon. This is a guy plus a power runner. I mean, it's not like he's Lamar Jackson or some of these other guys. Murray with Arizona who are like scramblers, and even Mahomes to a lesser extent. Although I don't know how much running around Mahomes is going to be doing in the future. What do you think? Does Andy Reid just put the clamp on that as if he was, was sinking his teeth into a rack of ribs at some Kansas City barbecue joint and saying, no more running if we can avoid it?
He'll do less.
What do you think?
You are who you are. He's not a runner. He's a scrambler.
But Richardson is one of these guys that, I guess like Cam Newton many years ago,
Yes.
that is capable of not only making, clever moves, but also just bowling people over.
Yes, he's a big, strong kid. He's really fast. He has a big arm. And if he was a tight end, that would be amazing. He's a quarterback.
Cam Newton didn't last long at that level, though.
And and Cam Newton was actually better than Richardson. Like Cam Newton wasn't completing 54%. Like Richardson went games plural without touchdowns. Like plural. Like you could be the worst quarterback. They're playing Vanderbilt. They play a very soft schedule outside of their like 4 SEC teams that are good that they play. And he was not good. Like he's not a good quarterback. He's an athletic freak that you take a flyer on in the second round, and maybe look, even Lamar Jackson, who was the athletic freak, went late first. Because you don't know. It was the last pick. You don't know if it'll translate because the NFL.
Well, you didn't know if he could throw, and you still don't.
But he was better. He was better as a passer than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. Yes, I mean he's not terrible, but he certainly isn't prototypical when it comes to passing the ball. No. I mean, you don't think of the classic. Even Peyton Manning wasn't prototypical, but wow, he was very clever and accurate with that. All right, Brian Mahoney going to join us here shortly. Lubie's going to connect with him, and we'll get into some baskets here. But are mock drafts just put out there to aggravate the general football public?
Yes.
Is there somebody out there that is known to have an especially credible mock draft every year? Kind of like, does Mel Kiper come close on his mock drafts? What about McShay? See, putting out mock drafts that you look at and you go, my God, I mean, you couldn't anticipate every move, obviously, because teams trade and, different needs may apply. But you certainly came close to capturing what was likely to happen in the first round. I just, I would always wait every year when doing draft coverage, for the pick that would come that would just stun everybody, including like Drew Rosenhaus, who'd be guesting with us on the program. And, he would say, what? The Dolphins took Tim Bowens? What a bum. And later that night,
he's representing him.
He's on like Sports, Center. And, he's got his arm around Tim Bowens going, my man. Went way further down the draft than we had ever anticipated. All right, joining us right now, a guy who knows about NBA drafts and certainly everything that pertains to the National Basketball Association, including a couple of teams that are playoff bound in New York, the Nets and the Knicks. From the Associated Press, our good friend Brian Mahoney joins us here on the show. Brian, thanks for joining us. Always appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, my friend. There haven't been any mistakes made in the NBA draft, have there? Because we were just, as you were coming on, we ended up on a tangential journey around mock drafts in the NFL. But it seems to me, when you make a mistake, and we were talking the other day with a friend of ours, Scoop Skolnick, you may know, Ethan Scoop Skolnick, who used to cover the Heat very extensively and has been around the NBA for a while. I think even with, what was the...
Bleacher Report. He was a national Bleacher Report.
Yeah, Bleacher Report, yeah. He was doing stuff. And he was saying that there have been so many busts at the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, uncharacteristically so, that, maybe, outside of Wemby being available this year in a lot of drafts, there is no clear-cut number 1 guy. And oftentimes the teams with that top pick end up blowing it anyway.
I mean, it seems like this year is a can't miss, but there's been quite a few years where, yes, we get all hyped for guys, and then you watch them play 2 or 3 years in, and you're like, why did they pick that guy? And not even, obviously, the most probably famous one is not a 1 pick, but in the LeBron draft, where then you had right after Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade, and in between the Pistons picked Darko Milicic, and you're saying, how did you miss, the great players right beyond him? So it happens more than we would like to see, unfortunately.
Yeah, Joe Dumars was face down in a frozen Lake Michigan after tainted and otherwise brilliant career in the front office, and then things really began to crumble there. And I don't know that it's corrected itself since. All right, we witnessed something last night as mysterious as the Bermuda Triangle, and/or anybody that has disappeared in that direction, including at one time a Miami Heat player. I mean. Did you catch this game last night with the Heat and the Atlanta Hawks? If anything, we've been mentioning that the Hawks, seem to be at a very dysfunctional state. We compared them to the Mayweather family, and they even put out. You would have thought this might have come from Pat Riley's publicity machine. That you know what, the Hawks are open to talks for Trae Young. Right before the game is a little psychological warfare. And yet it was them. They said, hey, look, we'll trade this kid. We don't give a flying one about Trae Young. And then they go out there and pound the Miami Heat. And literally, what happened? I mean, how can you account for this discrepancy in terms of effort, which is evidenced by a 63-29 rebounding advantage for the Atlanta Hawks in this game against Miami last night? What does it say to our poor Heat fan base down here in South Florida?
Well, it says it's been, there's been way too many times it's happened with Miami last year where they obviously are way better than, now a number 8 seed if they win Friday. But this is a team that should be much higher than they are, but they just kind of have these clunkers. And, Atlanta was a team when, as you say, you're waiting for the season to end and then you start trading and all of a sudden they go out and play with inspired effort last night. And every time they miss, they need a key rebound and go get it. Real surprising to see that happen. And obviously Miami gets another shot, but they shouldn't have needed it. They should have just gone and won that game at home last night.
You would think. I don't know. I mean, probably they were jinxed. Worse than the curse of Rachel Nichols is us on the program here, Lubie and me, thinking, yeah, they should win this one pretty handily. No problem whatsoever. And our debate was, do you lay the 4 and a hook? Yes. And it turned out, we weren't expecting the team to go out there and lay an egg like that. Many people think, Brian Mahoney, that the Heat roster has them in a position where they're relatively snookered. That, whatever we saw this year, you'll probably see it perpetuate itself into the next season at least, because they don't have any cap space. They don't really have, I don't think, tradable commodities there. Although, what was there a reason that Kyle Lowry woke up? Does he want to go play for the Phoenix Suns or something? I mean, that was the only positive thing that developed in that ballgame. Otherwise, it looks like the Heat are kind of stuck in a little bit of a stagnant place where, the prospects for next year wouldn't be that bright.
Well, they always kind of find a way to get themselves involved, and if guys want to be traded, somehow Miami always ends up on their list. It's a place people want to go to, and it's a respected organization. So, somebody's going to ask out somewhere, and it's a matter of then, do you have a trade package? And as you say, they don't have a ton of great assets. There's not a lot of things off the top of their head. You can say, okay, they have, picks they can trade or this and that, or great young players, but. I never rule them out. Obviously, they Pat Riley finds a way more often than not. So, but it's certainly not. If you line everyone up right now in the NBA, you don't look at them as their current state and say this is a team that's in a great situation going forward. They have to find a way out of it.
Well, Brian, you covered the NBA a long time. You're out of the Northeast, New York area. You primarily focus on the Knicks and the Nets, but you do cover the NBA at large. Look, the two franchises you're tied to a lot are franchises that have in the drafted the guy that was supposed to be good that fell back. What I find most curious about the Heat is the opposite. Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero were late lottery picks that usually fail in the NBA. I mean, those are picks that are not guaranteed. And both have succeeded expectations from where they were drafted. But what's weird is they both got to a place where you're like, wow, they're stars now. What could they be? And then they've gone backwards, which I find rare. Usually when you see a guy hit a certain place, they stay there, if not get better. Bam Adebayo in particular was averaging pretty much 21 and 10 going into the All-Star break. He was, a lot of people considered a top 3 big man in the NBA. Since the All-Star break, the guy, I think he's like 15 and 8, and last night was 12 and 9 versus a Sixers team that is not big, that is not imposing, that is not physical. Like, as a guy who's covered the NBA a long time, isn't that strange to see a guy who hits a certain place and then in the same season regresses?
It was weird, a little bit, for sure. Like, and he didn't have a great night at all. I mean, Capella killed him last night.
Yep.
That was just a real poor effort for an all-star type player. So, surprising. You never know why that stuff happens. Whether the guy just had a bad night, whether he's having a bad couple weeks, whatever it is. But certainly a bad time for it to happen. And you're right. You kind of, with him in here or both, you kind of expect. Yes, these guys are borderline going to be stars and keep becoming bigger stars, but certainly it wasn't there last night. It wasn't there often enough this whole season.
All right, tonight we have the game that will decide who the Heat face if they're going to make the postseason. Which is this considered? It has to be considered postseason, right, Brian? Or is this a separate category? These playing games.
We're still figuring out. It's only been a couple of years now. The stats don't really count as postseason stats. So
yeah, I mean, what is
it
that we're witnessing?
Gray area. It's purgatory in the NBA.
Yeah. All right, Lubie implied that he knew a guy who threw another guy. Found out that maybe Nick Nurse was sitting on the Ed Ogeron hot seat. That seems improbable to me. How would you assess Toronto and the Chicago Bulls, who, unfortunately, the bad news for Heat fans, as Lubie researched, they were combined 1-6 against those two teams. The Raptors at home favored tonight. I seem to recall them playing some decent basketball in spells this year. I mean, how do you size up this game tonight, and which of those two teams, would have a better chance of making a move into the playoffs?
I mean, they're both teams who probably should be better off than they are. Chicago has never really gotten over, Lonzo Ball not being able to get healthy, and it's been a big. But certainly if Levine and DeRozan get going, that's a team that can score a lot. And Toronto is, they got some big guys on the wings, obviously with Scotty Barnes and Siakam. And if you're looking at a team that gets killed on the boards like Miami did last night, you don't want to play a team like that who goes and gets the ball the way they can. So. Either team, neither one should have been a 9 or 10 seed, I don't think, and either one has a chance to put together a couple of games here in the next couple of days and find themselves in the playoffs.
Knicks fans are pretty giddy about the season they had, and yet it seems like they face a rather imposing challenge even in the first round. As they seemed so thrilled that they clinched. The New York media. I get the Post every day. And the impression I got was, wow, they were thrilled to get that 5th seed locked up, and that put them in a spot there where they face the Cavaliers, who may be the weakest of the top 4. Obviously, by one-loss statistics they are. But how much of a challenge is that for the Knicks? And are Knicks fans and the New York media, are they somewhat delusional about how good the Knicks are this year?
Well, we haven't had many good seasons up here, so when we have a good one, it's going right to the top. But no, I think it's a good team. The Knicks, I think it's, I would give them a shot to win. But I think Cleveland's really good, and obviously Donovan Mitchell's had some incredible postseason games in Utah, and now we'll see what he does here in Cleveland. But that's a big front line with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, and Julius Randle, has been hurt, so we're not sure if he's going to be able to play, how effective he can be if he does play. So, I wouldn't pick the Knicks to win this series, but I think it could be a very, very good series. I like both teams. I think they've both had a nice season.
All right, and the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, remarkable that Jacques Vaughn was able to take a team that was completely decomposed, in terms especially of, what they thought was going to be, the foundation of the team and the main impetus behind any success they would have with Kyrie Irving and Durant. And then with a completely different bunch of guys, almost like you got like a new group of players from the Y to be the Washington Generals. They, go out there and maintain that 6th position, which gives them an opportunity to face off against the Philadelphia 76ers. What chance in any do you give the Nets in the series? And I guess, as you were looking at the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference, are the 76ers not the most vulnerable of those 3 teams?
Yeah, I think the 76ers are a little step behind, obviously, Milwaukee and Boston. I think, I think I don't give them a title chance as well as those 2 teams, but I do think they're better than the Nets, obviously. And, the Nets, it's a nice regular season team. They played way above themselves after those trades, as you say, and, they brought in 4 starters. They became a pretty good defensive team, and they found a way offensively more often than not. But, in the playoffs, having to beat someone 4 times, that's just when the superstars kind of take over. And, the 76ers have a couple of them when Embiid and Harden, and the Nets don't right now. So I think this is a Philly win, but credit to the Nets for not caving on a season that could have gone really, really sideways.
Brian Mahoney of the Associated Press with us here on the show, and always good to talk basketball with him as we're on the precipice here of the playoffs. The Lakers looked to be in some very dark water and deep water last night. It was almost like they dove into the Hudson River, only the West Coast version. I mean, they're down 15 to Minnesota. Minnesota, I mean, with Gobert suspended. By the way, I mean, how weird was that? To see the incident itself occur, and then Minnesota, I guess the team suspended Gobert for the game. I'm not sure if the league was going to issue a suspension for that move, but they go in there without Gobert, and they're up 15, and they end up losing a ball game. And the Lakers get the chance to face the Memphis Grizzlies, who are, in a little bit of psychological disarray with the whole Ja Morant thing. What do you see there? I've been telling Lubie, Brian, all year long not to sleep on the Lakers. I'm not sure if I believe it anymore, but what do you make of that whole theory that the Lakers might be formidable as they now roll into the postseason?
No, it's funny. Obviously people get so sick of the Lakers being overcovered all season long, and they weren't a good team. And then, sometime around 2 weeks ago, we started saying, you know what, they're not bad.
Yeah.
They got healthy. David Davis and LeBron are awesome. We know that. The trades they made at the deadline were good trades. They definitely got better. They defend way, way better. So I'm not ruling them out at all. Last night was sort of their whole season. They got off to a terrible start. They looked like they're dead, and then they find a way toward the end. So Memphis has a couple injuries here and there, and obviously they lost some momentum when Morant was out. So they're not a powerhouse, and they don't have a ton of experience. So it'll be interesting if the Lakers can sort of put together a great run at this year.
Yeah, and you have also, I mean, as wide open as the East appears to be, although you're thinking it probably boils down to one of the top three teams there, as demonstrated throughout the season. They were, just better than the other teams in the division, with all due respect to the Cavaliers. But, it seems wide open. I know Denver was a top team there. But when you look at, the Phoenix Suns after the Durant acquisition and when, they've had Durant in the lineup, they've been unbeatable. But they face a pretty tough challenge, although without Paul George, obviously the Clippers are compromised. But do you see the Suns emerging out of the West, with Durant, imposing himself as the force that he's capable of? And all of a sudden, people maybe get off his back a little bit about, how he doesn't make a difference, unless he's with a team that's already, dynamite to begin with.
Right. It's a good question because, Denver has sort of faded a little bit toward the end. I would have still picked Denver going into it, a couple weeks ago, but now I'm not sure. And as you say, Phoenix hasn't lost when Durant plays. It's a small sample size. I get that. But the bottom line is when you win every single game with a certain lineup, it's hard to pick against them. So it'll be really neat. Obviously Paul George still being hurt for the Clippers. You would think that gives the Suns a good chance. And then, having to play Denver in the second round would be really, really interesting. Either one of those teams would have a, terrific reason to think they could win the whole thing by then.
All right. Any teams that you see as, not necessarily sleeper contenders, but, certainly not, the teams that we've touched on already? I guess we covered a lot of the East, but what do you see shaping up out of all of this? We know the NBA, Brian Mahoney, is a chalk league. What do you see emerging as the playoffs evolve?
Well, the interesting one, I guess, is, do you believe in a 6 seed by the name of Golden State Warriors? So obviously, it is a chalk league more often than not, but, can you win 3 rounds as a lower seed would be really, really interesting to see. They sort of got themselves together at the end of the season like they said they would, but we'll see. You have to, do it now in a, terrible situation to come out of. We'll see if they can do it.
All right. Excellent stuff as always, Brian. We look forward to talking to you again, hopefully, as the playoffs progress. I guess they're going to go on, into July, so we should have plenty of time to connect with you, and hopefully we can impose on you for some more of your time. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate
All right. Brian Mahoney, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Brian, pretty honest. He's a guy that is out of the Northeast, covers the Knicks and Nets, but covers NBA at large. seen the Heat through a lot of success and was a little confused and shocked at that lack of effort, because that's one thing the Heat have, right? Yes, this year they haven't, but throughout the history, that Heat culture is really about heart, hustle, and effort. That's really what it is. They are disciplined, they're pretty sound fundamentally, and they try. They play hard. That's Jimmy Butler's MO, and that's what this team has done for the most part during the Pat Riley era and during the Jimmy Butler era. Well, this season has not been the case, and Tuesday night was definitely not the case. Rebound. Look, it's not like the Hawks have all the size and this physical presence. The Hawks are a soft team, but they were playing hard. They went after it, and the Heat looked lazy, lackadaisical, slow, out of it, whatever you want to say. It was not their Tuesday. Now they have to play another play-in game to try and get that 8th seed and play the Bucks. To me, I don't know. I'm not trying to be negative, Debbie Downer. Just feels like this team is sort of giving up. Butler, even Lowry was there. Everyone else was gone. I don't know what's going on with Bam. He finally taken a step, what I've been looking for his entire career. The first, because it's not half, because the All-Star break was at like the 2/3 mark. So the first 2/3. And then after the All-Star break, he was a disaster. Offensively, went back to being not aggressive at all. And for the first time in his career, at least he always played good defensively and rebounded, was a disaster defensively and rebounding. And we saw that the Hawks demolished him. They demolished the Heat. And now the Heat are looking for answers. Not sure if we're going to find them this season. The hope is there are 4 or 5 big-name players that seem to either want out or their franchises realize it's time to rebuild. And the Heat usually are a destination for big-name players. Maybe the Heat can entice one of those players this offseason. We shall see. We shall see what happens with the entire postseason as the playing games move on to Friday. We'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about the NBA playoffs. And we'll talk more Miami Heat and South Florida sports every morning, 7 to 9, on the Defo Show with Lubie on South Florida Live. Check us out most mornings here on 5 Reasons Sports with Defo on 5. Check us out on our national podcast, the Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And here, our South Florida skewed content, the Defo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?